What an absolutely incredible end to this show, Mac. Oh my God.
Yeah. I could not think of a better way to cap it all off. And we'll have some more specific thoughts when we can talk spoiler free or spoiler full, rather, when we break down all three episodes. For anybody who hasn't seen all three of them yet and is listening now. But what an amazing way to end what has been just like an accomplishment in what you can do with Star Wars storytelling, you know?
Yeah, this is when they announced that Star Wars television was going to be a thing, like live action television. This is the type of thing I was envisioning because, you know, like The Mandalorian is always going to be my personal favorite. It's just, it's never going to be supplanted, I think. Like, it's always going to be at the top for me. However, I can identify that Andor is the best quality. And like when I'm thinking of TV shows, this is the type of stuff that you can do with TV shows where you can have slower episodes and you can take your time and the pacing of it and spend more time in a world that we all love and add so many layers to it to make you love it even more. Yeah. This is what is the potential of Star Wars television right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, when we do kind of our whole show moratorium later in the week. We're breaking down the last three episodes on this episode. Later in the week, we'll have voicemails and we'll talk a little bit more about like this season in whole and the show, the series as an entire thing. But yeah, I can't think of a show that used the medium of television to explore Star Wars in a way that like nothing but television can, you know?
Yeah.
It used the medium to its advantage in a way that it's truly like it's a testament to what you can do on television with the Star Wars universe.
It's just absolutely incredible. And I cannot wait to break down these three episodes with you, dude. Like, I'm so pumped. Let's do this.
For sure. You're listening to Children of the Watch. I'm Mac Lacey.
And I'm Alex Maxwell. And today we are breaking down the final episodes of Andor, 10 through 12 of season 2. And if you're new to our podcast, we break down every single episode of Star Wars television scene by scene to analyze the story, find comfort Easter eggs, and explain how it all connects to the larger Star Wars universe. And maybe you've only watched episode 10 so far, or maybe just 10 and 11. That's okay. Here's how it's going to work. We're going to give our general overall thoughts of the entire arc in just a moment, and then jump into our episode by episode breakdowns. And as we discuss each episode, we're only going to focus on that particular episode. So if you want to jump to that right now, there's going to be timestamps in the description. And when you finish all three episodes, you can come back and jump back and forth to listen to the entire discussion. Now let's move into some spoiler territory of just general overall thoughts. I am a broken man.
Yeah. Like, oh my goodness. This arc it took me through such highs, such lows. It gave so much a satisfying ending and wrap up while still kind of leaving you with this like,
you want more.
It's an empty, hollow feeling, not because the show was disappointing in any way. I don't think you should get that. You don't use that as your takeaway from our review at all. But just in that, like, oh, things have come to an end. It's that feeling of after you finish the last book in a series that you've been loving for like months and months and months. You get to the end of it, and you almost have this like empty, hollow feeling, not because it wasn't amazing, but because there's no more. There's no
because
more.
It was amazing.
It was amazing, and it's over now. You know, and I felt that through these episodes so much, but in such a good way. Like it's a testament to how much this show has made me care about these characters, about these struggles. Just phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think that Rogue One is supposed to be the finale, really, of Andor. Like, you are meant to watch Rogue One as soon as you're finished with this and just go right into it. And that is like the finale, the big culmination of everything. it's literally intentionally designed that way. And of course, we'll get to that when we get to the final episode. But it almost felt like, to me, Mac, for Andor, like for the series Andor, it felt like the Lord of the Rings epilogue, like where it's like,
yes,
kind of just wrapping up all the storylines, taking its time, no rush in ending it, and leaving you in a place where you fully understand the impact of everything that happened these last 2 seasons and where it has left these characters.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there are some, now that we are at the end, we can talk about some things that like maybe we didn't get answers on something that, on questions we had about things going on. And it's fun that we now can talk about that and know what to hopefully look for in future stories surrounding the Andor characters and things like that. But these 3 episodes managed to surprise me in a lot of ways. Like, there were a lot of things that I predicted were kind of gonna happen, but the ways in which they happened and unfolded kept me just on the edge of my seat the whole time. And there were some big kind of surprises and reveals, especially at the end that we'll have to talk about.
Yeah.
That, even in a story where like we know what Cassian's ultimate fate is because Rogue One came out, before everything, that still just like it adds a whole other layer onto the story coming. And then it also adds some, I'm interested to see
the future,
what comes of all of that at the end. So,
and I will say before we jump into our episode 10 breakdown and all of that, I will say like, they were absolutely right. In the leading up to season 2, they kept talking about how it's going to make you see Rogue One differently and Star Wars differently. And it does. It absolutely makes me see Rogue One in a brand new light. And it's one of the things that we have always discussed. And one of the things I've kind of struggled with the show from time to time is like, where's the Force in this? And then, of course, last week with episode 7, it showed up in a big way. And it turns out the Force was always present and moving through Cassian specifically, and it makes him feel almost like a prophetic figure of like, he's not going to get the glory like Luke Skywalker does and stuff like that, but like he's just as important because he's the one that makes sure that Luke Skywalker does the thing that he does.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting thing to look at because you can see how he's kind of like ordained in a way. Like he's this chosen, called out character for this purpose, but he's completely unaware of that. He doesn't have any kind of working understanding of the Force or anything like that, really, like a Luke Skywalker does. So it's fun to examine how, the Force can use characters and set different events in motion, even if those characters are not totally aware.
Yeah. And I actually love that. That makes it even better for me in a way of like, they're not even aware of the cosmic significance they're having on the galaxy. And I think that's maybe a lesson we're supposed to take away from this now of like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it goes into what the thesis of everything is, and I'm so glad this came back in this arc. But like Nemik's manifesto,
oh my gosh,
talking about talking about how all these little acts everywhere, people all having their own personal rebellions and everything. These little steps in the right direction, these little choices to do the right thing, they all accumulate into the rebellion, the massive rebellion, and the day being saved, the battle being won. It's almost like how, I think the Force works kind of in the same way, right? There's all these people throughout the galaxy choosing the light, doing the right thing, having compassion, putting themselves out there for others, and all those little things contribute to the overall saga, the where the Force is moving the events of the entire galaxy. It's really cool.
It's so good. All right. So this is the last few days that you can do the 5-star review contest because we're going to be announcing the winner of that on our voicemail hotline episode later this week. So make sure that you go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review, screenshot it, make sure that you have the code word Axis inside Thank you. Inside the review, and email it to mandalorianwatch@gmail.com, and you will be entered in to win a Children of the Watch t-shirt, a Andor Season 1 Blu-ray set, and a X-Wing Rebel helmet. All of those things could be yours by simply taking 1 minute to go give us a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts. And if you are not a Apple user, you can go to a Windows computer, like a desktop computer, download iTunes and do it through that. You can do it through that and easily enter that way. So make sure you do that. And then also listen to our friends Oysters, Clams, and Cockles for their Last of Us Season 2 coverage. They do scene-by-scene breakdowns just like we do for Star Wars, so definitely check them out. And then we want you to call in. What did you think of these final 3 episodes? How are you feeling after this? We want to hear it all. What did you think of the whole season? All of it. So call in 205-259-6675. That's 205-259-6675. Keep it under 3 minutes. If you mess up, hang up, try again. We will use your best one. Let's do this.
Let's get into the breakdown. I guess we got to start with episode 10, of course.
Episode 10, and from the get-go, I felt tense after watching the recap, especially how much they focused on Lonnie. Like the whole time I was like, something really bad is going to happen in this episode. I can tell from the recap.
Yeah, they definitely were reminding you of all of the ways in which things were just teetering on the edge, you know?
Yeah.
The fragility of the situation involving Luthen and Lonnie and the ISB and all the goings on of Coruscant.
Yeah, it was it made me tense, and then of course, you know, when Luthen's saying, "I need to know the end game. I need to know the end game." And now here it is. We are in the end game now, and this episode begins by 1 more year later, and it is now BBY1. We are 1 year away. Actually, I feel like it's actually less than 1 year. This is like
it's
2 weeks away.
If that, like, I mean,
5 days.
The end of this arc is probably a day or two out from events we're seeing in Rogue One, right?
Yeah.
And I guess there's ways in which there could be more distance than we think. We'll have to talk about it when we get there.
Sure.
But it seems like, you know, it's just a couple days before Rogue One happens.
It's December 28th.
Yeah.
BBY1.
But I guess Rogue One is still some ways off from the Battle of Yavin, though. So
it's not really, though. It's like
I mean, A New Hope
maybe
takes
a
place
week or
over
two.
a few, like a week or two.
Okay, we're in November. BBY1.
There you go.
It's the end of the year. It's the end of the year. So we begin this episode on Coruscant and Luthen's gallery, and the comms are beeping. And it's a beat that's increasing in speed and tone. Yeah. A door opens, and Clea stands in the doorway, and it kind of seems like she may live above the shop. I got that sense that she lives there.
At least nearby, and that would make sense to be able to kind of keep an eye on everything, and you'd want somebody around to make sure nobody's doing any snooping that you don't know about.
Right. And so outside the ISB headquarters, Lonnie walks like he has the Death Star plans tucked away in someplace very uncomfortable. That man looks scared to death.
And for very good reason. For extremely good reason, we find... from a couple different fronts. Like he's running from a situation that's pretty bad and into one that could be worse.
Right. In the shop, Clea retrieves her blaster and Luthen puts on his disguise, and they're both very tense. This is probably the most tense we've seen both characters. They're usually always in control, have this confidence about them. Not right here.
Yeah. And I do feel like this, in support of that point, this sequence of Luthen getting ready and putting his disguise on, it's shot in a very similar way as the first time we see him do that in season 1. But the difference in the way he's doing it, the desperation, the speed, the abruptness, the urgency, you get a good comparison of where he's at now and how much, how much more desperate, how much more the heat is on.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I think that makes you tense as a viewer because like typically they're so confident. Now they're not. I'm not confident anymore either. I'm like, what is about to happen? I don't like this. And so on the Fondor Holcraft, Luthen confirms they'll meet at the steps and for Clea to keep her distance. And then she goes on to say something about it being perfect. And Luthen says, I think we've used up all the perfect.
Just supporting what we've been talking about the last couple breakdowns of just like, it's unraveling. The way that they used to do things is becoming, it's no longer feasible.
Yeah, they can't do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he knows too what's probably about to happen. Like he's been talking about this to Cassian for the last few weeks now of like, they're going to hang us. I think he feels that now. Like this could be it. This could be it for me because, you know, of course, Lonnie is reaching out in public. This is not going to meet down in the lower levels of Coruscant. He needs to talk right now. That means something really bad has happened. And it's all going to be over. And Clea tells him to tuck his shirt in and then they get moving. Kind of just, again, reestablishing that she kind of can talk to him in a way that nobody else really can talk to him that way. And, you know, at this point when I was watching the episode back, I was like, man, I really wish we were going to get their backstory. I don't think we're going to get it, but
I know
it would be really, really cool if we could get it.
I was almost like, oh, we're for sure not getting it now.
Exactly. Same.
And how wrong we were.
Yep. And then in open air plaza, Lonnie waits on a bench for Luthen, and he ends up being kind of surprised that Luthen came. And Lonnie immediately begins explaining the situation. Dedra Miro contacted someone in Tactical and is putting together a team for an operation on Coruscant. She's coming for Luthen. And Lonnie says he can't confirm because he's been burned. And that concerns Luthen more than the fact that Dedra's coming for him. He's like, wait, what?
Yeah. It's like, oh, no, we can deal with a raid. Like they've probably been through that kind of thing before at this point, you know? But, if Lonnie has been found out and they've found the extent to like which the network runs and everything, it's a whole other situation.
Yeah, they're not coming to question me. They're coming to kill me.
Exactly. That's the difference there. It's not suspicion anymore. It's like, oh, no, they know. They have it figured out. It's time to do or die. Right.
And Lonnie goes on to say, I know what we've been chasing, but before he gives the information, he wants to know how they're getting off Coruscant. And he goes on to say, hey, I've already got my wife and my daughter. They're fine, but I want to know how the three of us, me, you, and Claire, are getting off. And so he's kind of negotiating here. And he says that he's had Dedra's code cert for a year, just total access. But the night before is when he finally decided to go into her files and he found something huge in them. And he is adamant about his safe passage. And Luthen asks how much time they have. And Lonnie says they're coming right now.
Yeah.
But Luthen has to know first. He needs the details. Like before they can do anything, it's like, you have to tell me what is going on.
Right. And that makes sense. Like it's a tense situation because even though they're kind of aligned on the same side, they're still having to hold these bargaining chips from each other to ensure their safety. And it's a tense situation.
Yeah. Then Lonnie goes on to say the Emperor's energy program is a lie. Gorman
we knew that from
yeah.
Catalyst and all of that.
Well, we didn't know who was going to be the informant, right? Like by Rogue One, Tivik knows, a couple other people know, but it's not like, how does this ball get rolling on the rebellion side? And it's Lonnie who really tips them off to this.
Yeah.
And so Gorman was a front. They needed mineral from the planet, Jedi Kyber crystals, the public order, labor camps, Scarif. It's a weapon. Yularen wasn't even told until a month ago. And that's how secret this has been, is that not even Colonel Yularen knew about this until a month earlier.
Right. And I mean, we see the levels of secrecy in that, like, I'm sure Dedra didn't even know exactly until she had gotten, like, I'm sure she didn't get the files about the Death Star until after she had become instrumental in it with Gorman, because they only knew that they needed a mineral. So yeah, like it's crazy how secret and how close to the vest the Empire is keeping it. And how they're scattering all of the production and administration of it out to different pieces, so none of them know what the whole piece of the puzzle looks like. It's good.
Yeah, it's really good. And then Luthen says that he will take Lonnie to Yavin, but Luthen needs to know more about the weapon. And we cut to Luthen walking down the stairs as the music plays a really haunting tune as he's just kind of going down the stairs, and you can see like on his face something has happened. And then we cut back to the plaza, and a Lothcat and his owner are near the bench, and it comes up to Lonnie's lifeless body with a blaster burn right in his chest. We've been trying to warn people, because I think there was a lot of people in the lead up to season 2 who are like, Luthen would not do anything to Lonnie.
No, absolutely he would. I
knew from his monologue he would.
Right. I knew as soon as he said that he was going to send Lonnie to Yavin that
he said the name.
Yeah, I'm like, oh no, Lonnie's not making it out of this.
No.
But yeah, we know exactly how Luthen operates and stuff. It seems like the people. It's interesting though, because like Cassian and Clea, we get a sense that he genuinely kind of cares about them and will do things for their safety. But Lonnie was a lot more of an instrument. He's not like a personal relationship that Luthen has. So I don't know. It's interesting to see like what kind of person Luthen will just burn and what kind of person he'll stick his neck out for.
Well, like when Cassian kills Tivik in Rogue One, at the beginning of Rogue One on the Ring of Kafrene, there's a sense of panic about Lonnie.
Mm-hmm.
Like with Tivik, of like, you can't handle this. Like, you are losing it a little bit right here. And I think, not to defend what Luthen does, but like that's his thought process of like, there's no way that he's gonna be able to continue on the way he's acting. I've got to just eliminate him myself.
Right. And I don't think he's wrong for that. Because I think the moment that Lonnie tells Luthen all of this, they learn that, oh, we're not fighting to get away anymore. We're fighting to make sure the Empire doesn't find out all of our secrets.
Right.
We're not fighting for our lives. Those are forfeit at this point. Our primary goal is to make sure that they can't trace the information trail to anything else,
Right.
So I think taking Lonnie out of the picture is probably the best way to ensure that happens.
Right. So nearby, Luthen meets with Clea at a busy intersection and forces her to repeat the details over and over, especially making sure she says Galen Erso's name over and over again, which again, that connection to Rogue One, that's Jyn Erso's father, who's a huge player, maybe just as huge of a player as Cassian, but we don't get her backstory like we're getting Cassian's, right? Like, that would be cool if they want to do another show called Jyn or something, or Erso. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, so we don't get her side, but it's cool that those connections are already popping up right now. And then Luthen orders Clea to go, and he will be the one to stay behind and do the burn. I think it's the first time we truly see him getting emotional, like not angry, but like truly emotional, sad of like, I'm losing something here.
Truly afraid.
Yeah.
Like he's been panicked and they've felt the walls coming in before. There's been moments where he's been kind of, you can tell he's fearing what's coming next, like everything starting with Aldhani and stuff in season 1. But this is the first time that it's like, oh, I'm afraid because like I'm seeing the gallows closing in. Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of the next stop. Which he's never been in that situation before.
Yeah, it's like, when you see your dad kind of afraid. It's that same feeling of like, wait a second, you're human? It's just like, what do you mean? What's going on here? It was that kind of emotion in me, seeing Luthen kind of afraid. I was like, oh boy, this is not going to be good. And Clea hesitates and realizes what this means. And then back at the gallery, Luthen begins to pour the liquid metal over the comms, destroying it. But as he does, there is a ring at the door. He looks up and you can see his heart drop immediately. Just, by the way, before we go any further, can we just say how much of an incredible performance Stellan Skarsgård gives in all of this?
In the entire show, he has brought something truly special to Star Wars with the character of Luthen. His intensity with which he's playing the character, but then also his choices to, like, you know, he lets in some whimsicality and stuff in there with his disguise, and like to be able to do
stair guy.
Oh, really? Yeah, like just the range he's showing here, and the moral complexity and of the character. He's juggling a lot and does such a good job with it.
Masterclass. Just incredible. We are so lucky that they cast him in this role in Star Wars. Just, man, I want more actors like this in Star Wars. It just elevates it to a brand new level. Bravo, sir. Incredible job.
Thanks, Stellan.
I call him Stell. We're buds.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true.
Okay. You don't have to think it. Slowly, he approaches the door, and standing there, Dedra Miro. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't breathe. I don't like this.
I mean, it's been like 24 episodes that we've been waiting for them to be in the same room.
And here they are. Luthen has to put on the show for her, even though he knows what this probably means. I think it's just like one last. There's a chance that maybe she's just shopping, and I've got to play it off that way just in case to see where this goes. Yeah. But I think he knows deep down why she's actually there, right?
Yeah. He knows the jig is up.
Yeah. And so she comes in saying that she's passed by many times and has always wanted to come in. And so they introduce themselves to each other. And this, again, was just a master class in building tension. This entire scene is so tense. Dedra asks if anything is real in the shop, which I think is kind of a loaded question a little bit, right? Like, I know that you're not real. So she's kind of playing kind of like a cat and a mouse type game already. Right. And then Luthen says that there's only two pieces of question, and then ask her if
he's talking about her and him, I think. Right. Yeah. Like the two pieces of question are Dedra and Luthen.
Right. He then asks her if she can tell which ones are fake. And then he retrieves a knife. It's a Nautolan bleeder that is 60 centuries old. So Nautolans are Kit Fisto's species, the Jedi from episode 2 and episode 3, the guy with the green.
They're like tentacle dreadlocks.
Yeah, he's cool.
They're great. They're like an aquatic species.
He's always smiling.
Yeah, he's a jolly, happy guy.
He's a happy guy.
So yeah, Nautolans are cool. I'd love to meet some more Nautolans.
Yeah.
They're very few and far between.
Skeleton Crew would have been a good place for a Nautolan pirate, right?
It would have, yeah.
Yep. So he presents the Nautolan bleeder to her. There are only 3 others that have ever been found. And I just thought that it was pretty bold of Luthen to be handing Dedra a knife in this moment.
Yeah.
Are you sure you want to do that, my guy? Or
it's because, she is here to kill you.
Yeah. But he goes on to say they don't know if it's real or not. And Dedra wants to know if he owns all the pieces. And then she says something that she has something for him. And she plays along, nervous that it might not be stunning. She's kind of acting it up a little bit herself here in this moment, which just great acting on her part as well.
Yeah. And despite like all the tension and the obvious kind of way this is going, and all the talking in code, I feel like her being like, "Oh, do you own all the pieces? Like, are you in charge of all the Rebel Alliance kind of deal?" There's like all those little ways. It's the under talk,
code. It's code talk.
Code speak. Despite all that, I really thought there was a chance that Dedra was going to pull something completely normal out of the case, and this
I was hoping for it.
I was too. So the fact that despite all of that, I was still holding out hope that it could all just be cool. That's what a great sequence.
Right. And that's what I mean. It's just a master class of building tension because they had me because I was like, please pull out something. Please don't do this. Yeah. Like maybe it's something from Gorman. I don't know.
It's something that she's getting for Edie on the anniversary of Cyril's death or something like that. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. But instead, she pulls out the Imperial Starpath unit from the first 3 episodes of Andor, and my heart just dropped here, Mac. I was like, oh my gosh.
And it's all burned up now because it was in the building they blew up, and it's like my heart was. It was that feeling that you get riding the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, where you're like, oh, I'm up here, but my internal organs are still way down there.
Or Rise of the Resistance. I wasn't expecting that drop that happened. Oh, yeah. Right. So,
That's such a great ride.
Yeah, it is so good. Luthen stops playing immediately as he realizes, okay, I don't have to put on this act anymore. And Dedra goes on to say, I have dreamt of this. Too many versions to remember. And here you were all that time, hiding in the shelter of Imperial peace and quiet. And Luthen goes on to say, and I've known you all along. Hardly seems fair. Jeez. My guy.
I mean, when your back is completely to the wall, get a jab in where you can,
Yeah, I mean, you might as well. You might as well. And she goes on to explain how he disgusts her, everything he stands for. And then she says, the building is surrounded. It is over for you. And Luthen says she's too late. He goes on to say this, the rebellion isn't here anymore. It's flown away. It's everywhere now. There's a whole galaxy out there waiting to disgust you.
Yeah.
I love that line so much.
Yeah. And he's right. Like obviously if something happens to Luthen and they can extract all the information that he has and stuff like that, that's bad for the rebellion. That leads to a lot of other people getting compromised and things. But he's right in that Luthen isn't the rebellion anymore. If Luthen's out of the picture, nothing really changes at this point,
Yeah.
They're doing very specific targeted operations and stuff like that, but they're not even allowed. Like, it doesn't seem like Luthen's even allowed on Yavin. He's not even welcome.
And I think it's because, the type of things that he's willing to do to someone like Lonnie, they have drawn a line in the sand of like, we're not going to do that because we're not going to become what we're fighting against. And Luthen's like, I will do anything to kill these guys. And I don't think they're comfortable with that. Kind of like they're not comfortable with Saw.
Right, exactly. I don't know that they view Saul and Luthen as very different, even though Saul and Luthen would disagree with that statement,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. So like, I definitely think he's absolutely correct. The rebellion is everywhere now. Like, no matter what happens here, you're just going to be doing the same thing tomorrow with somebody else. Like,
yeah. Oh my gosh. It's such a great back and forth between them. I love it so much.
It's great. And I mean, he's won too, like in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like in the long game, he knows that he has won, even though he's losing right now. He's about to get caught and meet his end and everything. The long game, he's accomplished what he wanted to accomplish.
100%. And she says soon he will be telling them all about it being the rebellion. And she turns away, which is a total amateur move on her part.
Yep.
And he just walks away from her. And she notices the smoke rising from the comms in the back and then orders him to turn around. And he doesn't. Instead, we see the bloody Nautilin bleeder in his hand and he collapses, dying. and she rushes to him and asks for a med team. Just total arrogance on Dedra's part. Like, she wanted to rub his face in it a little bit, and he's like, I'm going to kill myself before you allow that to happen. No way.
Right. And it's just proving the point that him and Cassian were talking about in that warehouse all along, is that they're too proud to even think that they could succeed, like that the rebellion could succeed, or that they can't see the realness, like the earnestness with which people are fighting against them. And they'll continuously underestimate anybody until they're gone.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, like, although Dedra this is kind of some people might react weird to this. Dedra can put pieces together almost like Thrawn can, in the sense of, like, she can figure something out really, really, really quickly. But the difference between her and Thrawn is Thrawn understands the motivations and the people.
Yes.
She does not understand that. She can put the pieces together, but she doesn't get the individual piece of that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's she can see the people involved, events that happened, the information that can be written down on paper. She can understand all that. She's great at putting that together and following threads and stuff like that. But, like, why any of that is occurring, completely oblivious.
Yep.
And that's continually the Empire's mistake.
Right. If they just had a little bit more Thrawn, but unfortunately, pretty much at this point, he is on Peridia with Ezra Bridger. He is gone now. So.
He's out of the picture during most of Andor, at least.
Yeah. I mean, he was there until last. I mean, he was there last week. He pursued Mon Mothma, and
You're right. You're right. That all happens a lot closer.
This happened in October of BBY1. He's gone now.
Okay. You're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
He's gone. It's November now. So they hook him up to a stretcher, hoping to save his life, as they board him on a transport. Onlookers watch in horror, and Kleya is among them, seeing what happened. And then we cut to the ISB headquarters, and Hirt, I'm going to have a really hard time saying his name. Hirt stops Legret and asks if they've heard about Lonnie, and he's confused. Partagaz explains to him what happened with Axis, and Hirt reports that Lonnie is dead, and immediately Partagaz knows what that means, right? Like, as soon as Hirt tells him, oh, okay, hey, we caught Axis. Sorry about that. Dedra did it. And then he's like, okay, but Lonnie is dead. Partagaz has this look on his face of like, oh, these two things are connected.
Yeah.
Oh God, we've been infiltrated like at our highest level.
Yeah. Well, and Lonnie also said that he'd been burned. So I think they already suspected that.
Somebody,
right?
Yeah.
Something was already going on.
They were looking into it.
This is the confirmation that, Lonnie's been a double agent the entire time.
Yep. Then we cut back to the gallery, and in the shop, we see the Imperials scanning everything. They're categorizing everything, and they even board his Fondor and take everything in for evidence. It's kind of like if the villains of Gotham City got to just roam around Wayne Manor and the Batcave.
Yeah.
It's the same feeling here.
And like, even though you're not really seeing them like talk or like their faces or anything, it seems like they're gloating a little bit almost.
It does feel that way. It feels that way. And I'm getting mad as a viewer of like, get your hands off those things.
That's Luthans. Yeah.
That's a Mortis tablet. You don't have no idea how expensive that is. The comms continue to smoke as an Imperial expert begins to look at what they can salvage. And then we cut to the safe house where Kleya stands in the ruins. And there seems like there's been some renovations going down on that floor. I don't know what's been happening there, Mac, but it doesn't look good. Doesn't look livable anymore.
No.
The entire floor. The floor below it, though, is great.
Yeah.
This floor, don't want to live on this floor.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has been living there for some time.
No. But as she's standing there, we begin hearing radio chatter and blaster fire, indicating a flashback coming up. And Mac, this reminded me of the very first Rogue One promo.
Yeah, because it was just like audio basically, and an image
it was
of
audio,
the Death Star, right?
And then it did the Death Star plans, and that was it.
Yeah. But that's fine. Like that's great. But that felt a lot like that for sure.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what's happening?
Same.
What are we about to get here?
I was getting really excited at this point. I was like, I was wrong. We are getting a backstory here. And I was very, very excited about that. I guess I didn't consider we would be getting it from Clea's perspective.
Right, because I mean, we didn't know how closely connected they were, right? We knew that they worked closer together than anybody else, and that like Clea kind of seemed to be running the show at some points and stuff like that. But the depth to their relationship, we didn't have even a hint of, I don't think.
No. Okay, so then we cut to the past. When it is, we aren't exactly sure. Maybe very, very early Empire, maybe Clone Wars. It's hard to tell if this is Imperial or like honestly, my first thought, Mac, was this was like a planetary war.
Yeah. That's exactly where my head was. Because the uniforms were not exactly like anything we've seen before. We get to see some uniforms like what Luthen is wearing and everything. It's people fighting other people, and not in the same like technological advanced army versus guerrilla army kind of way that we're used to with fighting the Empire and stuff. So like my thought was like a planetary conflict of some kind. It's not like a galactic war we would have known about. It's just a war that was happening on some planet somewhere.
That's the vibe I'm getting, and I'm sure we're going to get more clarification on this in the coming days, and we'll be able to maybe talk about this a little bit better on our voicemail episode. But yeah, it's the vibe I'm getting is that this is a planetary conflict, and if it's not, it's the day after the Empire became a thing, because
I mean,
it would have to be.
Yeah, Clea is seemingly like what I would put her 12? In her early 30s in the event Andor.
Yeah,
and if she's like, I would honestly have put her at like 8 or 9, like 8 to 10 in the flashbacks. I'm terrible at guessing children's ages.
Yeah, no, she's more like 12, 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, it could have been like day one of the Empire.
Sure.
And that would have put Luthen probably as like a Republic soldier that transitioned into the Empire and dealing with that, and I don't mind that backstory for Luthen if he did undergo the transition, because that makes it the conflict with the Empire personal for him, but it's not like he had joined up with the Empire at any point, right? Like that the Empire happened to him like it happened to anybody else.
And now I'm kind of building my own little backstory for Luthen, because we don't get all the answers from these flashbacks, but like from what we see in these flashbacks in this episode, I think he is a student of history. And I think one of the things that you had said before, Mac, of like, okay, why does he keep bringing up the Rakatan? Why does he have all these ancient artifacts? I think it's because he, studied how people overthrew empires, and the Rakatan is the infinite empire. How did they get overthrown, and how did that rebellion happen? Which is the Jedi and what would become the first iteration of the Republic. That's what that is. And so I think he probably just studied those sort of things, and that became his obsession.
Yeah, definitely. I had that thought, and then I connected it with like, MLK studied Gandhi
Exactly. Yep.
To inform the tactics of the civil rights movement in America and stuff. It's like that. But yeah, and he could have been, he's older in the flashbacks still. He's at least, 50 plus even in the flashbacks, I think. So he could have been like a Republic soldier and kind of saw the galaxy, and that's why he's so versed in
maybe an intelligence officer.
And yeah, maybe. And then if it's a planetary conflict, maybe he retired from the Republic Army, came home, so to speak, and he's like a leader or a something like that. But I don't get the sense that he's very experienced with combat and warfare based on what happens in the flashbacks,
Yeah, right. So let's talk about that, because we see a point of view through the grates on a ship, and we see a younger Luthen enter the ship and slam down his radio, and we hear, "If it's moving, kill it." And then there's just constant explosions and screaming, and Luthen seems to be in a state of shock. And then we cut back to the present, and Clea goes to retrieve the stash in the ceiling full of equipment. And then we do another flashback to the past where Luthen takes a swig of something to calm his nerves, and he sees the blood on his hands, and as more blaster fire echoes outside, and then he starts saying, make it stop, and he says, Roshne Lutz, almost kind of like an invocation or prayer or something. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's like something from his planet that is like a statement or something like that. But I think this is the moment that broke Luthen.
Yeah, this is where he lost his ability to do nothing about oppression in this moment, I think. Yeah. It broke him in this moment, like kind of rendering him helpless, like unable to do anything. But I think that feeling festers and becomes like an unavoidable drive to do something,
Yeah. Yep. And then in the present, Clea puts her hair up as she realizes what has happened, and we cut back to the past. Luthen can't go back out there. He's still yelling, make it stop. And then someone calls for him, and we learn he's a sergeant. And the soldier said that they were looking for him, and he says that he has to reload. That's why he came into the ship. Luthen says he's got to reload. And the soldier asked for more burners because they need the whole street on fire.
Yeah,
this is like Vietnam or something.
Vietnam is definitely what what it evokes in my mind. It's soldiers being ordered to do terrible things, I think. Right. And like the fact
some
that
of them are cool with it.
Yeah. Some of them are cool with it. Obviously, some of them are not. Like Luthen. Yeah. The fact that we're not seeing what's happening outside leads me to believe it is horrific.
Bad. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Because like we've seen some terrible stuff happen in Andor season 2. The fact that we're not seeing that happen, it's bad.
It's bad. Before he leaves, he turns on the radio again, and then young Clea accidentally makes a noise. Luthen marches over with a knife and finds her, and then we hear, Sergeant Lear, come in. So we learn that's his real name, is Lear. Kind of like
Rael
King Lear.
Backwards.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. It's just Rael backwards. So he just
switched his name
for his secret identity. But yeah, King Lear. I'm not familiar with the story, so I couldn't tell you if there's any parallels there.
We need someone to call in the voicemail and explain the parallel to us.
Yeah, if you're a Shakespeare scholar, please let us know.
Yeah. Anyways, his name's Sergeant Lear, which you're right. Rael is just that backwards. And then he looks over at the radio. Outside, they're looking for him, asking for him, and he tells Clea to keep quiet and leaves her there, closing the grate. And then we get another quick back to the present where Clea knows what she has to do. And this is the moment where I realized, she's going back to kill him. This is it.
Yeah, because you're not getting him out as a one-man band in the middle of like an ISB-occupied hospital kind of deal. You're just not getting, and he also can't survive outside of the hospital at this point. So there's only one thing Clea could have on her mind to be doing, and that's protecting the intelligence secrets of the rebellion.
Right. Yeah, so we see her walking outside the safe house, and then we cut to the past again. Another soldier questioned what he's doing, and Lear/Luthen claims that he had to reset the ship. So he might be a pilot, or I don't know what his job is here.
Yeah, it's tough to say, but he's stalling is the point. He's 100%. He's trying to be out of the way, not participating in whatever's happening outside.
This would have been me a million times of like, I have to use I've got to use the bathroom.
Terrible diarrhea has struck at the worst time. Oh no, I gotta be gone.
Yeah, that exactly. So yeah, the soldier leaves saying that he can't believe anyone is left, and Luthen says that he's right behind them. Outside, just more destruction happening, and then he goes back to the grate and reaches a hand out to Kleya, and she takes it. Then we cut back to the present, and outside the hospital, Kleya surveys the Imperial ships on the platform and then looks at the hospital. Inside, they work to save Luthen's life, and Dedra says that she needs to question him, and she orders the entire floor clear. And then we cut to Kleya walking into the hospital with an injured hand, not really, but she's pretending it's injured, using that as cover to sneak through the hallways. And she finds her way into a locker room, and she uses the key that she has to break into a locker to retrieve some nurse scrubs. And then she walks through the hallways in the open, scanning for Luthen, and we see someone in a Bacta tank. Bacta. I'm going to say it every single way possible so I'm not criticized. Bacta tank behind her.
You're just going to be criticized for indecision on pronunciation now.
I say things like Lando Calrissian does, so get over it.
Han Solo.
And then but the thing is, everyone started calling him Han after Lando started saying it.
That's true.
Because it's like, well, Billy D must not be wrong. If he's saying it that right, we got to say it that way.
Like, he has the authority on being cool, so I guess we'll go with him.
Yeah, so it's Bacta?
I think it's Bacta.
Bacta.
Like bacteria. Penicillin. Like it. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Just putting that one together.
Yeah. Just like the Lear Rael thing. And then she spots the ISB heading up to a floor. Hirt. This guy. Little Tarkin. That's what I'm going to call him. Little Tarkin arrives, confronting Dedra, and he ends up arresting her. And Dedra's like, how dare you? And he says, no, Partagaz wants me to arrest you. And she realizes she really has no choice but to go with him and sort all of this out. And then we see, this is a great scene. Then we see Kleya take a hover chair, pushing a confused patient to a lift, which is just good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. This is a very unique Star Wars infiltration. She does, in fact, have to steal and put on a different uniform because it wouldn't be Star Wars without that. But I don't think we've ever seen like a patient used as a prop in a subterfuge. It's good. It's original.
Clearly a patient that could not say anything anyway, so it's just perfect cover for Kleya. So then we do a new flashback where Luthen and young Kleya walk through a camp together, and I thought for a second, this is Sorgan from The Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 4, because it looked a lot like that. I was like,
it looks similar.
Ooh, in my head, canon, this is Sorgan. So we're just on Sorgan here. Inside a shop, Luthen tries to haggle with the shopkeeper over an artifact, and immediately we see the team that Luthen and Kleya can be.
Yeah.
And after the shopkeeper gives a low counter, Kleya plays bad cop and says to walk. Luthen says that she is his daughter, and the shopkeeper offers her 10 if she smiles. Kleya gets it up to 18, and she says, sold, but no smile. And Luthen kind of grins at that. And I think he realizes, like, oh, I picked a good one here.
Yeah. And Clea resolved that day to never smile ever again. I think we see her smile maybe like twice in the whole series.
Yeah. You see a hint of it on Yavin later, but not yet. So yeah, as they exit, Clea asks if she is his daughter now, and Luthen says, when it's useful. When it's useful.
I think they're definitely I think this is another found fatherhood story.
Mandalorian Grogu,
yeah. I think it's that they're essentially father and daughter.
Yeah,
it's
100%.
It's the baddest batch.
Except the Mandalorian is Clea in this instance, and Grogu is Luthen.
Yeah, I do think Luthen is being rescued as much as Clea is in this situation.
100%. Yeah, so they come up with their new identities, and with their new money, they plan to get some food.
Sorry, I can only think of all the bumper stickers and t-shirts that are like for rescue dogs. They're like, who rescued who? But it's Clea and Luthen.
100% though. That is like not even a joke. Clea is not to be messed with. She's a little psychopath. And we love her for it. In the present, elevator Naomos music plays, which the evolution of this song throughout this series is something that I could do a whole podcast about.
Well, it's realistic as well.
Yes.
It came out as the first thing it was.
On Morlana.
On Morlana. You know, it's like kind of this driving song, but it's the thing it is. Then in the wedding arc in season 2, we get the dance remix. It's a little jazzed up, the tempo's up, you got the 4 on the floor drums going. And now the song has played out its lifespan on radio and has now made it to the stage where it's become elevator music. It's being played in grocery stores. It's not the main attraction it was at when it started. It's now background noise. Yeah, you know.
It's a bop, man.
It's good. It's good stuff.
I'm not gonna lie. There was a period of time leading up to Andor season 2 that I could not stop listening to that song over and over again.
It's very good. I like it a lot. I mean, it inspired the production of our Andor theme in no small manner.
Yeah. So they stop at floor 17. They cannot go any further, and she pushes the patient into the hallway. And then we get another flashback. And in the past, some more time has passed. You can tell because Luthen's hair is a little longer. Clea is cleaned up, and Luthen is showing a necklace to a man. I'm convinced. He's not, but I'm convinced of it anyway. Is John Williams' character from The Rise of Skywalker, but just younger?
That's fair.
Does it look like him?
A little bit.
With the eye thing, yeah. So they have a Davaronian victory necklace. Davaronians are the devil-looking creatures in Star Wars.
2 big horns. Clancy Brown played one in The Mandalorian.
Yep. Episode 6. Episode 6.
Yeah.
Season 1. Man, we know The Mandalorian pretty well.
We know The Mandalorian pretty well. Almost like we've done a breakdown of every single episode of The Mandalorian.
It's almost like we're going to do it again in the lead up to the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. Honestly, I feel like I could do it without any notes.
Yeah, we could probably just all right, we're talking about this episode now. We didn't even watch it in preparation. Let's go. Let's do the breakdown.
Yeah. He's got a Deveronian victory necklace. Then a woman screams from the city, and we see the Empire marching people in chains through the streets. And a trooper died by sniper, and they're learning this from the John Williams character. And they keep finding people who did it.
Yeah. Meaning like they're just arresting anybody. It's just an excuse to round people up, to crack some skulls.
I will say that this scene might be evidence that Luthen might have been part of the Empire, because that's pretty quick transition to stormtroopers. If you know what I'm saying?
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was like he was part of a planetary force that was acting on orders of the Empire or something like that. I think
that's it. I think
because the uniforms don't look quite right and stuff, but I don't know.
Who knows? Not us.
We get the point either way.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
It matters to me, though. Yeah, so Clea watches, and Luthen tries to get her to stop watching, but she steps down to get closer. And he orders her to leave, but she refuses, and then he just walks away without her. He says, fine, I'm leaving. And he's leaving, and they begin lining up the prisoners for a firing squad, and they execute them right there. I just have to take myself out of the scene for a second and just say that the alien near Clea is a really cool puppet.
Yeah.
The alien sitting like cross-legged and has the tin hat on, kind of like Imbo hat thing.
The almost Imbo hat. That was my thought too. Yeah.
Really
it's a cool, good creature effect.
Yeah, like that a lot. So yeah, she watches as they crumble to their death, and then finally she catches back up to Luthen. And she wants to know when they're going to start fighting back. And Luthen says that they have. He says, we fight to win. That means we lose and lose and lose and lose until we're ready. Mm-hmm. And Luthen promises a time will come for them to fight. And I think that's kind of Clea's first lesson of like, hey, we're not doing the Saw Gerrera thing.
Right.
We're fighting to win here.
Exactly. Like we could right here take our stand and start opening fire on the Empire as a old man and a little girl. We could do that. Or we could be a little bit smarter about it and plan and bide our time, build resources, build networks until we actually have the infrastructure to make a real difference.
Right. Also, what planet is this? Because it's really cool. I like this planet a lot.
Yeah, it looks a lot like parts of like Bravos in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it does.
Kind of looks like that.
It does look like that a little bit. Weirdly, I thought of the first planet on the Acolyte where the noodle shop fight is.
Yeah, that's actually
It looks a lot like that
one.
Udea or something like that.
Yep.
Starts with a U. Anyways, it's a pretty cool planet. We cut back to the present. The patient is muttering to herself as Cleo quietly walks up the stairwell. Just left her there. And she pauses as troopers pass by and then is caught by one guard and she shoots him. And I just got to say, bravo to the stunt guy for falling down the stairs. Just a great fall.
Yeah. Well done. Well done, stunt team.
The best fall I think I've ever seen. Just completely lifeless down the stairs. And then she enters the floor and sees Luthen's room across the way, but there's too many guards blocking her way. And so she takes out a detonator and her thumb hovers over the button. And then we get a new flashback, which is my favorite flashback because I am almost positive this is Naboo. This is Naboo.
It looks a lot like
that's Naboo. Yeah, that's Naboo.
Yeah, it's a good guess. We don't have any confirmation of that, but I like to think
Naboo.
It is.
It's Naboo. And a little more time has passed. You can tell that more time has passed between them. And Clea asks how many. Luthen says 50 and orders her to look around. On the bridge, she sees all the troopers and their hover trucks. And she thinks Luthen is backing out. Like, oh, he's scared to do what we're about to do. And he goes on to say, you need to pay attention. Life shows what we stand to lose. Most people look away. We can't be like that. So I think that there is some confirmation of like Luthen is aware of all the things that he's doing and what that means.
Yeah. And like what he's walking away from pursuing this life. Yeah. It's a good flashback, good moment. And you're seeing like this is him teaching what becomes the philosophy of his part of the rebellion he's teaching it for the first time, presumably.
Yeah. And he tells her that she needs to accept that what they are leaving behind. And she still thinks that he's afraid. And he goes on to say, I'm only afraid of what I'm doing to you. And then he pulls out a detonator and pushes it towards her and orders her to do it. She thinks for a moment and then goes for it, but he stops her. He's not ready for her to like really take that on yet, but he just wanted to see, is she willing to do it?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a test, but he's not ready for her to like have her hands bloody in that way.
Yeah.
But I think it was also a message that like you're gonna be called to do this kind of thing one day.
100%.
And to be ready.
And I can't wait for the Luthen and Clea novel that's one day going to come.
At a 1,000,000%, and I am so ready. I'm so give it to me tomorrow.
Yep. It's going to be good. And so then he presses the button and orders her to look at him. Look at me. And the hover trucks explode on the bridge. And then after a few seconds, he allows her to look. And then he takes her hand and walks away as the citizens of Naboo scream in terror. And then in the present, she pushes a detonator and the ships outside begin exploding. The troopers run past her as she acts scared and confused, and one trooper left behind, and she shoots him in the head and then kills another guard. Then she enters the room where Luthen is, and she closes the window and has a moment with him as the machine does the breathing for him. And then she begins untwisting the machine and detaches it. Luthen groans as his heart fails, and she watches the man who became her father die right in front of her. And then she gives him a kiss on his forehead and leaves him behind. Klaxons blare as she exits, and she almost gets caught. And then we end the episode on Luthen's body pulling away as we do a very, very slow fade to black.
Yeah. What just what an amazing episode. What a powerful moment. You're finally seeing what Luthen has, I guess, kind of known has been coming the whole time. Like it's what he's been, he's had in the back of his head, that he knows that this life doesn't end well, right? You're seeing the end that he's afforded. And just getting to learn the significance of him and Clea's relationship, and man, what a I actually think it's more powerful learning what their relationship is after the situation is already developed the way it is than having that in our minds as the show's going.
100%.
Like, I think this was exactly the way to reveal this backstory. It just right there at the 11th hour adds more fuel to that fire of, the emotion of the moment.
It was so good. And the actress that plays Clea, am I crazy in thinking if they ever did recast Princess Leia, she would have been a great person to play Leia?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's crazy. Actually, she's got the right look, the right stature,
attitude.
Yeah. Like she'd have to be playing a different character, obviously.
Sure.
A different character, but yeah, I think she could do it.
We got little Tarkin. We got alternate Leia here. It's good.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. So,
R.I.P. Luthen.
Yeah, R.I.P. Luthen. Clea's actress, by the way, is Elizabeth Dulaw. Not sure, but shout out to Elizabeth because great job in this episode.
She brought it. Absolute incredible performance. Loved this episode. It almost, in my mind, episode 10 is kind of a standalone, and
I agree.
Episode 11 and 12 are really just one episode cut in half.
That's also kind of how I view it. Much like the end of season 1 kind of started breaking out of the structure that had been apparent, and had kind of that like transition episode of like 11 kind of right before 12,
right.
And so this did kind of seem like the standalone Luthen and Clea episode. And then the next two, while still tying into the events directly that happened, we go in a lot different directions, I think.
Absolutely. It's just different.